So tell me, doctor, where are we going this time? Is this the 50s or is it 1999? It's time to double back, my friend. Double back again. Hey, everybody. We're going back in time as we take a look at a facsimile issue of the very first issue of Whiz Comics. Published by this version is published by DC Comics. Now, for those of you who didn't know, the reason that this is issue 2 of Whiz Comics, though it doesn't say here, but actually there wasn't a issue 1 of Whiz Comics, but it was published as an ash can so that you get the rights. Now, there's this weird thing during the Golden Age of comics where a lot of times, a lot of comic series didn't actually start with issue 1. Sometimes newer comic series came out as sometimes higher number issues or even taking over the numbers of other series, so people would think that these series had been running longer than they did. So that's why Whiz Comics actually came out as issue 2. I think that's the theory, is why there was no Whiz Comics issue 1 was an ash can, so they get the rights for the characters. And for the longest time, the Big Red Cheese Hero is actually one of the most successful heroes in the history of comics. And his creator would actually go on to create Supergirl, among other characters. And actually, if you've read Tom King's Rorschach comic, he's among one of several real-life comic creators mentioned in that particular comic. Now, among the characters mentioned in this comic, we get Captain Marvel, Iris the Invincible, the Golden Arrow, Spy Smasher, Scoop Smith. When we get to this comic, there's going to be some interesting concepts I'm going to mention here. Lance Casey and the American Dan Dare. I feel I need to point it out because there is, and I've actually covered the radio show that Big Finish did of the British Dan Dare, who was a test pilot and astronaut character. Very famous, very well known in the UK. He had a revival in 2000 AD, where they turned him into more of a gritty urban character, but originally he was sort of the kind of the ultimate boys adventure character. But we're not talking about that character. But I figure I need to if you're going to mention Dan Dare, you need to talk about that. It's like one of those things where there is a Dennis the Menace in the UK and there's a Dennis the Menace in America. Apparently there was at one point in time both a Dan Dare in the UK and a Dan Dare in America. But our Dan Dare was a private investigator. So, the first Whiz Comics story is the introduction of course, Captain Marvel. Now, I gotta remember, in the Golden Age, this is pretty rare. A lot of Golden Age characters didn't actually get origin stories, but we actually get several in this story, in this comic. Captain Marvel gets his origin story, which, if you know the character, it's pretty spot on from the DC animated short that was released. So, with a few twists and turns, I think. And there was Captain Marvel, where they based on the New 52 origin of the character, which a lot of people had issues with. But this is the original version. And we also get the debut of Captain Marvel's signature antagonist. Though he's not named in this one, we would later on go on not only meet him, but also his 3 children. Yes, it's the second thing this guy actually reproduced. 2 of his children look exactly like him and are evil, and then the one good one doesn't look like him and is actually good. It's very strange. I think they actually did all. I think 3 of them actually did show up in one of the Super Friends cartoons. And it also explains how Billy got his job being the youngest broadcaster for the radio station. And then we get Ibis the Invincible, explaining his origin, how he started out as being a mummy, and then gets his powers and where he's passing from. And he ends up, his main quest is primarily a little bit like the Golden Age Flashes, where he wakes up and is helping people, but his main goal is to try and find his long lost love who has been taken from him, and he does all this good to helping people using his stick and his magic powers to do all this good. And then when he finally awakens his true love, someone has snatched his magic thing, so he can't free his true love. Then we get Golden Arrow. In his case, what he is a descendant of this inventor who invented this lighter than air formula. And his parents and mother were killed, but he was saved by this old prospector and raised. And apparently this old prospector, I guess, was able to, didn't really care about gold, so he made the golden arrows for his adopted son, and just, typical story about a wild boy. He's fast. He's fast, strong, all this kind of stuff. Eventually, upon the death of the old prospector, learns his true origin and seeks vengeance. And after being the bad guy who killed his parents, he gives the formula to the U.S. government, which should be known. His parents planned to sell the formula to the U.S. government. So essentially, he sort of did what his parents were doing, but not exactly. I think it's all trying to make him noble. And then we get Spy Smasher. So noted in this story we have 3 origins, which is pretty rare for the Golden Age. Spy Smasher is the only one who has kind of already been operating. He already had his gyro sub, he already had his training. Everything that made the character what he is already here from the jump. And he's trying to figure out what's the operative, and this is his first antagonist. Hints are being that it could be the houseboy, even though he supposedly doesn't speak English. Yeah, it's pretty easy to fake that, but we're not 100% sure whether this villain is the houseboy or not. As he escapes, so I don't think it's the houseboy. It's pretty obvious to me that. And then here's the interesting thing: we have Scoop Smith here. Now, interesting here, we have Dr. James Kirk and the Merchant of Elm Street. Now, this was published in the 1940s, I think, when this comic was originally published, according to the trademark here. Yeah. So this is before Star Trek or Elm Street was ever prominent. I don't know if those were chosen at random. With the fact that we have a James Kirk and an Elm Street appearing before either Star Trek or Nightmare on Elm Street were prominent is just something I figured I need to mention for all you fans of those particular franchises. But essentially what the story is here is somebody has stolen radium. And radium is needed for life-saving properties at this time. And you have to understand, at this point in time in history, I'm sad to say a lot of people didn't realize the dangers of radium. And a lot of people are treating radium as a cure-all. People were putting radium in water, and even, they knew about the health properties in some aspects of it, but they also were using it for there's the story of the radium girls, I'm sure a lot of you guys know, but there's also things where people were actually putting it in water and using it for other aspects that were not considered kosher today. And here they're using it for legit medical stuff, which probably, I think maybe at the time they may have gotten, I don't know if at the time they would have known it better or not, but anyways, we've got our hero with his sidekick trying to sneak in and see Dr. Death. Sadly, no, not the wrestler. There's nothing. I think that's the popular moniker. You must remember Dr. Death, Steve Williams? And of course, he gets our heroes. He flings out their reporters because somebody forgets to remove their press credentials. Traps them, but of course, Scoop, being a 1940s reporter, which I think by law, every 1940s reporter is a trained boxer. I think that's literally a law in comics. Every boxer, every reporter in comics is a trained boxer. And they said the next Scoop Smith story, which somehow involves them going to the South Pole. And then we get Lance O'Casey, who's this is another one where it's like it hints that he had already been an adventurer for a while before his story starts. Because supposedly he had been starting a pearl stealing gang before the events of the story. He goes against this guy called the Barracuda. Who wants to, I guess, kill the old man, and the only way will stop her is if the daughter agrees to marry him and become the queen of his island. Of course, she's not going to do that, so Lance O'Casey comes in and saves the day. And then we get our hero, Dan Dare, who's our friendly neighborhood private investigator. And he's got to try and solve this case. Apparently this guy's been killed at this party, and the guy in charge wants Dan Dare to prove this guy named Portuguese Pete, yes, a nickname that wouldn't fly today, was guilty. Well, it turns out I don't think Pete did do it. I think it was someone else. That's right, it's the actual guy throwing the party, using his pet seals as go-betweens for a different case, because there was being drugs smuggled to a local casino that was a boat. Anyway, a lot damaging floor. And the reason they thought it was Pete was because before he made it big, he was a fisherman, and the thing that stabbed the guy was actually a fisherman's knife, which a lot of people carry. Overall, it's a good story, 5 out of 5. A fun selection of stories, which I would recommend finding. If you want to read it, you can find it at the Golden Age Comic Museum. Look under Fawcett Comics, and it should be the first one under Whiz Comics. Like I said, the first official comic of Whiz Comics was Whiz Comics issue 2. Unfortunately, I guess because this is a official one, even though it's a facsimile, there's none of the, except for the back, there's really none of the ads that would have been in the actual Whiz Comics. So I couldn't show you really any of the ads. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Give it a 5 out of 5. And I hope you enjoy my quick little look at my review of Whiz Comics issue 2. The first official debut of a lot of the Fawcett Comics heroes. A lot of them would end up getting their own comics. And as you know, Captain Marvel would end up with at least several movies. Which I think, yeah, I think I could show you a couple now. I've got the modern ones right here. That one's right here for Captain Marvel. Yeah, this just, the JSA is good. Black Adam is okay, but I really think they missed the mark here. They should have. Black Adam needs to be a villain and needs to have the connection to Shazam. These two were okay. Alright, so comment, subscribe, hit that bell icon for new, and we'll see you next time.